This morning, I was putting on my makeup while my husband struggled to get the kids out the door, and I felt this creeping feeling come in that I know so many people experience in their relationship, and it's what we're going to spend this video talking about, which is righteous indignation. What is righteous indignation? It's this feeling of being justified in your anger while dismissing your partner's struggles. The internal story I was having this morning sounded like, you think this is hard? Try doing it with a newborn and a toddler while having a dog bark incessantly and my milk is leaking through my shirt. Like now with a 7 and a 9-year-old, you think this is hard? I was also thinking, it's so easy. You have 2 kids who are more independent. You don't even know how hard this is. And then I also thought, you don't have a right to complain or feel frustrated. Now, before you jump down on me in terms of all of my not so nice thoughts that I had about my husband this morning, I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory. In the early days of when we became parents, I took maternity leave. I was home with the kids for a year each time. And during those first 5 years of parenthood, I solo parented for most weekends and many nights during the week. This was on top of running a clinical practice, of building my own clinic, of starting my social media space here. In some ways, as I tell you this, I kind of feel myself getting justified in terms of why I was feeling the way that I did. But when it comes to righteous indignation, what's really important about identifying it is that it creates a disconnection by invalidating your partner's experience. He was struggling in that moment, and all I could think was, you don't have a right to feel this way. When we know in relationships, each person has a right to their own feelings, emotions, thoughts, desires, wishes, and needs. Now, the problem with righteous indignation in our relationships is that it blocks empathy and compassion. And when we lose those 2 pieces, then what it results in is resentment, which is the toxic emotion that slowly erodes at our relationship. And resentment often tells me that there are unmet needs, either from not being seen or from not feeling important or adequate. Now, resentment often shows up when we stop communicating our needs or we've been communicating them and they are not being met by someone else. So instead of connection and going to my partner and saying, yes, getting the kids out the door in the morning when we're under a time crunch is really hard. Instead, righteous indignation leads to criticism, defensiveness, and emotional distance. If you found yourself in a similar position as myself, or maybe you've actually said those things out loud, I've got you covered. Here are 3 things that you can do next time you notice righteous indignation shows up in your partnership. The first one you want to practice is putting down your defenses. And even if I rewind this a little bit more, what this requires is for you to actually slow down what's happening in here to what's coming out of here. And often I say to people, take a beat. This is a really hard thing to do because here's what I know. It's busy. You have kids crying. You're trying to get out the door. But if we could just pause for one slow breath, it is enough to give you the opportunity to say, what is happening inside of me? Now, when we put down our defenses, what we are doing is we are resisting comparing our experiences. Just because I struggled before doesn't mean I'm not available to see his struggle today. And what we can do then is we can start shifting into curiosity and understanding what our partner is experiencing. That curiosity might be, are you okay right now? Or what's happening for you? Or what can I do to support you in this moment? Putting down my defensiveness means I am willing to be curious about what's happening for him and to build a little bit of empathy. Now, the next thing that is often important when righteous indignation shows up, and it wasn't something that was going to happen for me this morning, as again, we were under a time crunch, but it is something to take note of and to come back to later, which is, can we reflect on what our triggers are? Now, triggers tends to be this overused word, but what we can say instead is, what is this experience that creates this emotional burst inside of me, that creates this frustration or this tension or this extreme emotion? What is it that's happening? When we can identify that, we can start to then ask ourselves, what is it that this is signaling to me? What is it that I need more of for myself? Resentment often shows up when it comes to talking about the mental load. And this is an indication that there is too much on your load. Or it comes up around parenting, often because one person feels like they're leading and teaching and the other person is following. When we have these big emotional reactions, it signals there's an unmet need or something that isn't finished being processed. If I think back to my early motherhood days I was exhausted. I often felt unseen. And that's something that I need to work through on my own rather than saying to my husband, you don't even have it that hard. And last, when it comes to righteous indignation, it requires you to practice empathy and validation. And this can be something that you can rehearse in advance and to have a go-to statement. If you tend to be more defensive in your approaches, that you practice something ahead of time and you know exactly what it is you can lean into. It's not so that you can be robotic. It's just so that when your brain is flooded with all of this emotion, as mine felt this morning, you've got a go-to statement that is already ready for you. And if you can't access that, then all you can do is validate their emotion. I see that you're frustrated right now. That's enough that you can do in that moment. Or you can say, I know you're struggling. Let's come back to it later. So what does an empathic and validating statement look like? It might say something like, I see how hard this is for you. Or I understand that it's been so hard with the kids lately. Or I know you're struggling with all of the things on your to-do list. Here's what I want you to remember about righteous indignation. It doesn't erase your feelings or your experience, but rather it is this internal anger that can be a cue to us that there is something that still needs attention from us and that we have some needs that are not being met. When we let go of righteous indignation, we are holding space for both our partner's experience and building connection through empathy. And when we can do that in this moment, then at another moment, we can come back to talk about what it is that you're struggling with. Let me know in the comment section below if righteous indignation shows up in your relationship. And if you found today's video helpful, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time.